Alert day conditions are evolving across all of southern Wisconsin as rain, heavy at times, is already starting. When does the rain end and when does it change to snow, and how much snow can you expect? That's coming up.
And our call for action telethon is live, how you can get help with your consumer issues.
And tariffs against 3 of the U.S.'s biggest trading partners are now in effect. How those tariffs could impact all of us at the store. We welcome you to News 3 Now at 6. And good evening. Thanks for watching. I'm Eric Franke.
And I'm Sarah Carlson. We begin tonight with the weather, where heavy rain and high winds are expected for most of southern Wisconsin.
Our weather team has been tracking this system since last week. We go to Chief Meteorologist Alex Arrington. He has the latest radar. And Alex, what are you seeing right now?
We're seeing rain from west to east across all of Dane County right now, even off towards the north, towards the west. If you go up towards Highway 12 heading towards Sauk City, an area of heavy rain. We've even seen a couple of lightning strikes across parts of southern Wisconsin. As we zip off over here to the east, as we take a tour of where some of the heaviest rain is. Actually, if we can go back there to Max 1, thank you. Some of that heavy rain already now lifting up on 151, impacting Beaver Dam. Zooming on out and looking at this rain advancing across southern Wisconsin and very quickly to the north, it's already reaching the Dells. And if you look very closely up towards La Crosse, you notice a couple of little white blips. That's actually lightning that we're seeing with this weather system as it continues to evolve and move into southern Wisconsin. That rain is heavy through 7 o'clock. That rain is heavy through 10 o'clock. That rain eventually is going to change over to snow, and quickly by 9 o'clock entering the Dells to Madison to Monroe, all snow north and west of that line. Mounts of snow could be seeing upwards of 4 inches north of the Dells, 1 to 2 inches of slushy snow in Madison, and an inch in Janesville. When does that snow end? I'll let you know coming up.
Thank you, Alex, and be sure to stay up to date on the weather on our First Warn Forecast Weather app. It has hourly forecasts, road conditions, and the latest radar. You can download that for free in your phone's app store. Just search WISC Weather. The woman suspected of attacking a bus driver, causing that bus to crash into a Madison restaurant, is now in custody.
And Kyle Pozorski has the latest details from outside the Dane County Jail.
News 3 Now was amongst the first to find out that the person police were looking to in connection to that crash last week was arrested. They have not been formally charged yet, but online records show that Raven O'Neill Johnson was arrested early Tuesday morning. It was a week ago when a Metro Transit bus crashed into a building on the east side. And Madison police have previously said an initial investigation found a passenger attacked the driver, causing them to lose control and leading to heavy damage to both the Asian House restaurant and QPS employment. The suspect fled the scene before police arrived. And online records filed Tuesday showed Johnson, a 26-year-old woman, has tentative charges of disorderly conduct, battery to a public transit operator, and second-degree recklessly endangering safety. And now, despite a policy to not name suspects until they are formally charged, we are bygoing that policy due to the nature and severity of the alleged crime. Reporting in downtown Madison, Kyle Pozorski, News 3 Now.
And Kyle, thank you. We've also learned that Metro Transit employees were informed this morning of that arrest. Well, if you have a consumer complaint and you're trying to figure out your next step, well, our Call for Action team is here tonight with a special telethon dedicated to solving your problems.
News 3 Now is hosting the event with volunteers answering phones and getting you results. Consumer reporter Michelle Renee Quinn is live at the telethon with the latest. Michelle, how's it going?
It's going wonderful over here. We have 5 volunteers in the building right now answering your calls. And these are not just calls that consumers can place. These are calls that also can be helped by small business owners. Call for Action is for small business owners and consumers. You can call at 608-270-2833. Now, any type of problem, whether it's auto repair, home improvement, fraud, or identity theft, consumer issues are what Call for Action is here for. Now, you can call up until 7 p.m. today, and our volunteers will be answering the phone to speak with you and help you out with that. But they're also in the building every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. answering your calls. And if you leave a voicemail, consumer advocates will give you a call back. Now, again, we're available until 7 o'clock tonight, and you can always log on to channel3000.com/call-for-action to fill out a form.
All right, thank you so much, Michelle Renee. We'll talk to you soon. In other news, President Donald Trump is kicking off a trade war with America's 3 biggest trading partners.
Experts tell our Armand Rahman dairy farmers are preparing for an uncertain future.
The Trump administration imposed 25% tariffs on Mexican and Canadian imports and 20% tariffs on Chinese products.
Tariffs make you a little bit nervous when you're an American farmer.
Hans Breidenmoser owns a dairy farm in Merrill.
We have about 460 cows.
He's not the only one concerned about tariffs. If you ask experts whether they'll benefit dairy farmers much at all,
I think it'd be very difficult to say that they are.
Leonard Polzin says his fellow dairy market experts at UW-Madison Extension are projecting up to 25% retaliatory tariffs on all U.S. dairy products to Canada, Mexico, and China.
I don't think any part of the supply chain is going to be insulated from this.
40% of the country's dairy exports went to those three countries last year. He says a medium-sized farm in Wisconsin with about 250 cattle could see income go down up to $56,000 per year.
Anything producers can do to manage their risk is a good thing. One thing right now is that dairy margin coverage, which is offered through USDA Farm Service Agency, is still open.
About 90% of Wisconsin's dairy is made into cheese.
About 40% of the cheese exported from the United States moves to Mexico. It's our #1 market.
The executive director of the Wisconsin Cheesemakers Association says right now there are a lot of unknowns.
We would hope that this is a temporary situation and that goals are met through these tactics, and that we don't see any sort of disruption for a long time.
Hans feels the president didn't factor farmers into account when making this decision.
When it comes to milk production or making cheese and the economy of the state of Wisconsin, it's just simply lost on him. How could he know that? But that means getting input from those folks who are in the trenches.
Reporting in Madison, Armand Rahman, News 3 Now.
Armand, thank you. Now, experts say there were government subsidies to help farmers when the previous Trump administration imposed those tariffs, but it's hard to tell right now if they'll be available this time around.
And in a little less than 2 hours, President Trump will deliver an address to a joint meeting of Congress. The president is expected to lay out his game plan as lawmakers in Washington are working on the next federal budget.
Despite the fear-mongering of some on the left, this is really an opportunity to make sure the American people understand that as we work to reduce the total cost of the federal government, to bring spending under control, to lower inflation, what type of spending we are looking to address to ultimately get our country back on track.
However, some Democrats are pushing back. Dane County Congressman Mark Pocan says the Trump administration is embodying chaos for Wisconsinites. He is bringing a local farmer as his guest to that speech.
When you hear all the problems that already are happening, and we know there's more to come with the cuts, there's a lot of chaos, and farmers are just looking for certainty. And I think, when we're told by the Trump administration that no farmers had their funds frozen, and Emmett's got 2 different funds frozen, it just shows, again, the chaos.
The address will kick off at 8 p.m. Be sure to join us tonight at 10 for a full recap.
Still ahead on News 3 Now at 6, we'll check back in with our Call for Action telethon, how you can get help with your consumer complaints.
I'm Ellie Liberté, looking into why experts say now is the time for local governments to tackle the opioid epidemic.
You're watching News 3 Now at 6.
Well, you are taking a live look at our Call for Action telethon. Our volunteers are answering your calls and complaints with businesses in the area. Call for Action helps with a wide variety of consumer problems, including billing issues for health services, home improvement problems, supermarket overcharges, auto repair problems, scams, you name it. The number to call, 608-270-2833, and you have until 7 tonight, another 50 minutes or so that you can call for action, and you can do so every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday as well, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Opioid overdose deaths in Wisconsin have begun to decrease for the first time in decades.
At the same time, both the state and several local governments are receiving millions in settlement funds from national lawsuits against the pharmaceutical industry. Our Ellie Liberté explains how a recent report could give us insight into the fight against opioids.
Opioid deaths in Wisconsin are at their lowest level in the past 4 years. And according to the Wisconsin Policy Forum, now is the time for local governments to act. Patrick Anderson is the Fitrona EMS chief.
We have a protocol and a procedure in place if we go to anyone who's even a suspected overdose.
He's seen the dangerous effects of opioids firsthand.
Leave a dose of Narcan with them.
But recently, he's had to use less of that.
So I would say probably 2 to 3 years ago, it was probably up to 7 to 10 a month. Over the last year, that's really down to 1 to 2 to 3 a month.
That's a trend that Wisconsin Policy Forum Senior Research Associate Ari Brown says
is a really welcome sign.
In June, opioid deaths in Wisconsin fell to their lowest level since April of 2020. Brown recently released a report that shows both the downward tick and the impact of national settlements.
These settlement funds run through, or at least are being distributed through 2038. The state and 87 different local governments are going to receive roughly $780 million to tackle this issue.
So far, Wisconsin has already received more than $200 million. Although numbers are trending down as the money comes in, Brown says one does not necessarily cause the other.
But the fact that they're happening at the same time is at least interesting. And I think, is a sign to leaders in state government and in these local governments, telling them, this is the time to really tackle the problem.
Anderson says he'd like to see continued public access and education to harm reduction materials.
That's what's going to change lives. That's what's going to make a difference.
Wisconsin is receiving roughly $36 million in opioid settlement payments in fiscal year 2025. That will be distributed into actions like community-based prevention programs, public awareness campaigns, and harm reduction projects. Dane County specifically has a subcommittee that dictates how those funds are used.
All right, thank you, Ellie. Still ahead, we head back to the Call for Action telethon.
After the break, Michelle Renee Quinn hears from some of our volunteers why they're helping as they offer up some advice. Plus, an alert day for rain, even snow is in effect. Alex with a complete forecast when we come back.
You're watching News 3 Now at 6.
Welcome back. Less than an hour to go in our Call for Action telethon. Right now, our volunteers are answering your consumer complaints.
Now let's check back in with Michelle Renee Quinn for more.
Yep, guys, we have 5 volunteers in the building right now helping answering your call for action. Now, we have one call for action volunteer with me right now. This is Melissa. Melissa, how long have you been volunteering with Call for Action?
This is my 4th year.
Your 4th year. And can you share a success story with us?
Sure, I'd love to. We got a letter from a man who had bed bugs in his apartment, and his management company had treated the apartment and then billed him $1,300 for the treatment. They treated some other units too, and they billed each tenant for their unit. Now, the law says you can only charge a tenant if you can prove that they're the one that brought the bed bugs in. And clearly each one didn't bring to their own unit. It was a problem throughout the building. So with our involvement, we were able to get that fee waived. And in fact, he said he had reached out to 12 different agencies to try to get help with this problem, and we were the first ones who could really make a difference.
And how exactly were you able to help them solve that problem? Who were you able to reach out to? Do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, I referred him to other places that weren't able to help him, but just me making a phone call and talking to them and just kind of keeping the pressure on made them realize that they needed to do the right thing.
And can you tell me, how often do successes like this happen?
Oh, they happen every day we're here. I mean, all the time. Yeah, you don't see on the news all the stories what's really happening behind the scenes, yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us today and for helping to answer our calls.
Thank you.
You guys can continue to call up until 7 p.m. today. That number is 608-270-2833. And we do have volunteers in the building every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So you can call for action, or you can fill out a form on channel3000.com/call-for-action. And this is not just for consumers. Call for Action also helps small businesses. So if you have an issue and you think that they can help, give us a call and you'll get some advice.
They do great work. 43 minutes left. Michelle Renee, thank you so much. And thanks to our volunteers. An alert day for heavy rain. We're calling for action, Alex. What's going on with this weather?
Complex weather system, Eric. We've got really 3 pieces that we need to talk about as part of the 3 things you need to know. Rain 1 to 2 inches through Wednesday. That's a lot of rain on frozen grounds. It's changing over to snow as we go into Wednesday. 4 more inches north and west of the Dells, 1 to 2 inches in Madison, and a slushy inch of snow south towards Janesville. Then the temperatures plummet, and we could be looking at wet surfaces, freezing on Wednesday. Let's track all of this. It's all part of a big weather system that stretches from areas over areas over the deep south, Mississippi, Alabama, clear up through Illinois, up into the upper Midwest. We have blizzard conditions in the plains. We've got our rain, and they have tornado watches to the south down along the Gulf Coast. Madison, Dane County, Greene, west to east, even some heavier pockets of rain off towards the west. A little bit less than what I was seeing just moments ago near Hollandale, but heavy rain, no doubt. And then as we head to the north up along Highway 14, some heavy rain has pushed north between the Plain and the Sauk City area. Widening things out here, rain continues to rapidly advance to the north. We've even seen a couple of lightning strikes at times as this heavy rain does have a few embedded claps of thunder, and that will continue all night tonight. Future tracks showing the heavy rain all night long here, 10 o'clock, green and yellows. That's the heavy rain and maybe a clap or two of thunder, especially as we head towards 3 o'clock in the morning, perhaps a couple of thunderstorms. And then we track the transition from the rain over to the snow, rapidly advancing to the east, reaching Madison, changing over to that heavy wet snow by 9 o'clock, and then the rest of southern Wisconsin throughout the afternoon hours. By 6 o'clock, the snow will start to ease on up. Total amounts, perhaps 4, 5, 6 inches north of the Dells up towards Juneau and Adams counties where they have winter storm warnings. A slushy 2 to 4 out towards Lone Rock, 1 to 2 in Madison, and 1 inch of slushy snow in Janesville, and lots of water, 1 to 1.5 inches to 2 inches across southern Wisconsin. So we have to keep an eye out with frozen grounds for ponding of water, but then also we need to keep an eye out for those freezing surfaces. Cold northwest winds gusting at times of 40 to 45 miles per hour. That's bringing the cold air down as we go into Wednesday afternoon. By the time you join us at the 6 o'clock newscast, our temperature here in Madison's 29. As we go through the nighttime Wednesday night going into Thursday morning, you're going to wake up to temperatures in the teens, 15, as cold as 15 in Camp Douglas, 19 in Madison, and 20 in Janesville. So again, the recap is anything that's wet outside Wednesday is going to freeze as we go into Wednesday night going into Thursday. We just have to get through Wednesday. 42, but temperatures, as I just showed, are going to drop. Then we'll do 40 on Thursday, 40 on Friday. Could have a little light snow in the morning with minor accumulations. Then we start that warming trend that we've been talking about for a few days now, reaching temperatures in the 60s by the time we get to Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. So March is coming in like a lion, but by the time we get into the early to mid part of next week, feeling a little bit more like a lamb.
And coming up in sports, pressure to perform in Duluth, while the Badgers are saying they're not worried about that target on their back. That's next on News 3 Now. Four teams in Wisconsin women's hockey history have won the WCHA regular season title, the league's tournament title, and a national championship all in the same season. This year's team is already a third of the way there and heads to Duluth for the WCHA Final Face-Off semifinals. 2 wins this weekend, and Mark Johnson's squad defends their tournament title. And as the favorites, you'd think there'd be some pressure. Well, not for this group.
Pressure, people say is a privilege, and so it's about what we can do. It's about what we're capable of doing collectively as a group, and then can you go on the ice and execute that for 60 minutes? And at times, we do that really well. And so, as you get late in the season, you enter the playoffs. For this 2 weeks, can you do that? And we'll find out Friday.
And just a reminder to check out our final Wisconsin Huddle of the season. Kirsten Sims stops by to preview UW's matchup with Duluth. Show airs at 6:30 on Friday, right here on News 3 Now. The Wisconsin women look to snap a 30-game losing streak to Iowa tomorrow night when they tip off postseason play in the Big Ten tournament. And you can expect a big game from Sarah Williams, because that's what she's done every night out for the Badgers. Williams was tabbed first-team All-Big Ten and found herself again on the league's All-Defensive team. She's the first Badger to earn multiple first-team All-Conference honors in nearly 2 decades. And fresh off a WIAC tournament title, Platteville took home a handful of conference honors today. For the second straight season, Jeff Gard was named the league's Coach of the Year for leading the Pioneers to a 25-2 record. And for the second straight season, Logan Pearson took home the conference's Player of the Year award. Pearson averaged nearly 20 points and 5 boards this season. They'll tip off their Division III tournament on Friday.
Pretty good season for the Guard boys so far. Well, Alex, got some happenings going on out there with that weather.
Yeah, happenings. The heavy rain that's out there right now, widespread across all of southern Wisconsin. That rain's going to continue all night, changing over to snow. 4 inches of snow north and west of the Dells, 1 to 2 inches in Madison, a slushy inch south towards Janesville. And then we need to keep an eye out on those wet surfaces refreezing as we go into Wednesday night. We'll have more details. We'll be tracking things again with Future Track a little bit later at 10.
All right, you'll be busy. Thank you, Alex. And we're still looking at call for action. I think we have a check at that telethon right now. It's not too late to call. And there they are, all of our volunteers, 608-270-2833 until 7 p.m. with your consumer complaints. They're working hard, and you can call.
That's right. Thanks for joining us for News 3 Now at 6.